W.A. Simpson has been writing since the age of 5 and finished her first novel at 14. Her debut novel, Tinderbox, is the 2022 Gold winner for Fantasy Forward Review's Indie Award. She shares her home with her older brother and 2 diva cats. W.A., take it away.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Thank you very much for coming tonight. I'm going to read a little bit of the first chapter of, as stated, my book, Tinderbox. It's a high fantasy with a strong female character. And first, as you can see in my series, Tales of the Riven Isles. Okay. The vermin of the earth had long claimed the corpse of the witch, but Isbeth recognized the old woman right away, despite her head being severed from her body. Death had taken her, yet her voice and her blood cried out for justice from beyond the veils that separated the living from the deceased and other creatures that roamed the places in between. Isbeth knelt in the rich loam and laid her staff, Gamir, beside her, not noticing that his carved face, was in the dirt. A fine way to treat me. Hush, Isbeth's voice was harsher than she intended. She reached on her right and turned the staff over, although he could quite easily do so himself. Who did this to you? Isbeth removed her backpack from around her shoulders and laid it aside. The lifeless pile of bones could not answer, at least not on their own. Isbeth closed her eyes, willing something to come to her, an image, a face, anything. However, her power as a diviner was tenuous, and she often needed talismanic help. Isbeth could feel her fingers curling into the dirt and the power burning in her veins. I will kill you. I will make you suffer for what you have done. It was not until the burning reached her eyes and she felt the stinging tears pooling within that she had breathed in, fighting for control. Now is not the time for this. She must find out. She must know. Isbeth, Ramir's voice brought her out of her turmoil. See where she is? The witch's body lay near the ancient hollow tree, a great-grandfather in the old forest that had survived the many wars and other follies of man. Isbeth knew what was underneath its tangled roots. She had played here as a child, spending many a lazy summer afternoon at hide and seek in the catacombs, not with mortal children like her, but with the children of the earth. She wondered where they were now. Do you suppose it's Isbeth's brow furrowed and she tugged at one of the myriad of thin braids she wore? She wouldn't have gone into the cave. She couldn't. Isbeth went to stand, her legs stiff from kneeling. The box, she thought. It must be. It would explain much, Gamir said. Isbeth did not want to leave the remains there, but she had to see what was amiss. She approached the tree and investigated the gaping hole in the trunk, large enough to allow a grown man to descend into the cave underneath. Even with the sun high as it was, shadows lay across the rough walls. Still, Isbeth had a sense that something was not right. When she went to boost herself into the hole, Gamir said, Shouldn't we see to her first? His words caused her to pause. Gamir was right. It was difficult to tell how long the remains had lain there. If not properly laid to rest, they would taint the place as her body decayed. So would her gift. It would continue to flow from her body, spreading like a plague to steal the life of the woods. Yes. When Isbeth knelt again, she reached for her pack. Inside, she kept everything she needed to send the old woman to rest. Once she finished here, Isbeth would see to other things. Isbeth plunged Gamir into the soft earth. The red jewels that served as his eyes glittered. That face reminded her of the old spirits that lived in the trees, which made sense since the wood of the staff came from the celestial vine, which climbed into the heavens only to fall by the woodsman's axe. Isbeth had visited the forest where the vine held sway. Its twisted limbs were the home of innumerable mythic beasts and beings. Isbeth's eyes settled on the corpse again. It was a moment before she noticed the wetness on her face as the tears escaped. She swallowed the stone that had lodged in her throat. Old mother, forgive me for being away for so long. I was not here to save you. The urge returned to throw herself to the ground and weep, to scream curses, but Isbeth forced the bitter loss down. There would be time for grieving later. First, she would find her grandmother's murderer. From the pack, she drew what appeared to be a cameo pin. Anyone not trained in the arcane would see the profile of a young, creamy-skinned maiden, but those with the gift saw the face of the dun she, her eyes black within their sockets, her mouth opened in a soundless scream. Isbeth laid the cameo on what remained of the witch's breast, her movements practiced. She climbed to her feet, brushing the decaying leaves from her knees of the trousers she wore. Unlike other maidens, Isbeth did not hinder herself in dresses and robes. There were too many evils in the realm to risk capture because one tripped on the folds of a skirt. Her gaze skimmed the surrounding area until she found what she searched for, resting at the base of the tree. It was a mighty blow, Gamir commented. Isbeth didn't bother to respond. The witch's skull stared at her. Isbeth lifted it and made her way back. She positioned the skull above the body. Isbeth sat cross-legged. All was in readiness, but she didn't act. She stared at the eyeless sockets of the skull of the woman who had taught her the secrets of the realm. Isbeth? Isbeth drew in a labored breath. She had yet to perform the ritual, and already she felt the weight of exhaustion in her bones. Despite that, Isbeth stretched her back, reached out one slim hand, and she let her palm down over the cameo. She spoke the name. The face on the cameo came to life. A scream burst from within its lips, and a wind not felt by Isbeth whipped the lifeless gray strands of the Dunshee's hair into distress. The wailing of the death talisman did not disturb her, as its agonized cry filled the air around her. Nor did she find any concern at the unseen presence that approached her, the veil between the mortal and the other. Isbeth reached out again. Another gift of the students of the arcane was the ability to move the veils aside to allow a spirit entrance into the mortal realm. Often, the unschooled assumed that spirits would have the greater power and be able to move aside the veils themselves. Isbeth never corrected the speaker when she heard such things. The spirit of the old woman touched the remains, not in a physical sense, but with the intangible presence that gave life to the beings walking around the mortal realm. It had many names: Essentia, Quintessence, or Soul. There was a violent jerk of the body, and the she scream quieted. The eyeless sockets of the skull glowed with cold white light. The jar hung ajar. Okay, well, that was it. I hope you all enjoyed my reading of Tinderbox, and I would love it. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I would love it if you'd give it a try. Like I said, first in the Tales of the Ribbons Isles, with Tarotmancer being the second book.